I hope you'll enjoy this episode of the Mom View, sponsored by the Herzog Foundation. American education is in crisis. Our students have fallen way behind their peers in other countries. Instructions in reading, writing, math, and science have been replaced with an emphasis on CRT, DEI, SEL, and gender theory. How can we return to excellence in education? Well, we've got the answers, and they're coming up next on the Mom View. Welcome back to the Mom View. We're so excited to have you again. And of course, on the couch, we've got our girls. We've got Ellie, we've got Kimberly, and we have our special guest host, Angelina Banks, in the house.
Thank you for having me.
All right, ladies, we're going to be talking about education.
Yes.
It's going to be a really good show. A lot of great information's coming. But I just want to share this. Angelina has a personal story where a lot of the things we talked about in the open really touched you in your home with your kids.
Yep. So I am the mother of a blended family, and so this is back in 2017. So we had 2 in high school and 2 under 2. And the oldest daughter, she was having some issues. We just chalked it up to teenage angst. You know, a little moody, the doors closed more than usual, one-word answers. We thought it was just normal. And then we kind of dug a little deeper. We had an incident. We were out to eat at a diner one day, and she goes, we're having a spirited discussion about politics. What else? And she goes, Dad, you're such a cis male. And we're like, wait, what? Did you just hiss at your father? 2017, we had never heard this term before. So we're like, what does that mean? And she goes, well, Dad, you're just so white and you're just so racist. And he goes, honey, I'm your dad. You know me. I'm not racist. Where's this coming from? And then we realized that these conversations were being had at school. They were switching out academic time for what they called Spartan Pride time. And
I'm sorry, for what?
Spartan Pride time.
What does that mean?
And it was the beginning of the CRT and the social emotional intelligence. And they would have time where they're like, anger. This is what anger looks like, and they were defining anger as only one way, and this is how you're going to be angry. And I think it went from how to help children identify emotions to telling them what emotions and how they're supposed to express them.
Right.
And it's that's very dangerous. So thank goodness we have a strong family, so we were able to really get down to the issues that she was faced with and some of the confusion that was introduced through school. She's doing wonderful. She just graduated college. We're thrilled with her. And I, have my 2 littles, which that prompted me not to put them in public school. So they're in, private Christian education right now.
Smart move. There's a great quote by Nelson Mandela that just causes me to think about this.
Yeah.
Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world.
Yeah.
So weapon, I guess, really works in this scenario. I think it would be a tool if we're teaching kids the value of work. We're teaching them reading, writing, arithmetic, the things that we send them to school for. But it's become kind of an indoctrination camp of political agendas. And I would say that definitely is a weapon.
100%, especially when you're indoctrinating children to always identify with a victimhood mentality.
Absolutely.
Because when you're a victim, you relinquish any ability to claim power for yourself and actually affect change that's going to take you out of that situation. And so we see that. The schools were doing things like privilege walks, where the children were separating themselves based on perceived privilege that an outside entity was setting for them, which is extremely disturbing. And that's not what we send our children there to school for.
Right.
You trust that the authority on something is going to do the best for your children. And then and COVID kind of slowed everything down. And we realized everything we thought was happening wasn't. Yeah. And we really got an inside view as to how much the education landscape has shifted.
Still so many ramifications from that. And that's how you got involved
Yeah,
too.
absolutely. I mean, well, technically my start in politics was more about the medical freedom aspect of things, but then it quickly morphed into everything else that we're seeing across across the spectrum where it comes to, individual sovereignty, parental rights, what it looks like to petition your government, because there should be no governmental tyranny. But I want to just acknowledge that my own child my oldest has had a similar experience in his middle school with a teacher who, we're from a blended family, but we're also mixed race. And like you said, what did you say it was? I call it Heinz 57, but
I call it trail mix.
Trail mix. I love it. I love it. It's so funny. But it was like the DEI situation where it's like diversity, equity, inclusion. And his history teacher was essentially telling him, like, you're black, so you can't, behave this way, or you have to like identify in this specific way, and you can't, associate with your then white stepdad because, your black father. There's probably reasons why he's not around. And it's like, wait a minute, you have absolutely no idea what the dynamics of our family is. And like, how dare you even usurp
Make these
your
assumptions.
authority, right? Like, it's wild. But at the end of the day, all of our parents need to understand you hold the most authority within your home. It is not a teacher. It is not your doctor. It is not your governor. It is not your representative. It is you. And it is up to you and your responsibility to make sure that you hold that authority and don't give it away.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I love that you did, is you recognize the problem. And a lot of times it's never too late. I don't want to say too late, but sometimes it feels too late because it's gone so far down the road.
Yeah.
It's very hard to pull it back.
Right.
So you were able to recognize it and then step in. So what would you say to other parents who should be recognizing? What do they recognize? What do they look for?
I say that you have to be willing to fight hard for your children.
Yes.
And I'm actually faced with other friends of mine that are parents that don't want to rock the boat, that are afraid of the social excommunication. They're afraid to go against the grain. And I think I'm so thrilled that President Trump is back in the White House, because it's giving people who were afraid before a little bit more courage to speak their truth and advocate for their children. I give everyone advice. You are the end all be all when it comes to your child. We had a friend who actually pulled his child out of public school. He was nonverbal autistic and wasn't able to opt out of some of the things that he was being taught. And he was like, if you don't tell me what my child is being taught beforehand, how is he supposed to opt out?
Right.
Unfortunately, our school district hasn't changed any of those things, but there are a lot of parents like me who are fighting for that change.
And you live in Pennsylvania.
Yes, I do.
And one of the things I like to let people know is, where everybody's from, because this is really happening everywhere.
Literally
You
everywhere.
put two words together that I am now going to be using all the time: social excommunication. That's so
it's
much
so
better than
true.
woke.
It is.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what's happening. It's an intense bullying and intimidation, so that you just want to get along and join the crowd. And it used to be all of society, church, school, everything supported us as parents. And now they're trying to put a wedge in between us and our children.
100%. And the other thing that's just mind-boggling is that they speak about diversity. Well, diversity can be many things, but for them, diversity is only, it's not diversity of thought. It's not diversity of opinion. And I think that's the most important thing. True innovation, true growth, true major societal shifts happen through real diversity. And to program the children to put all that away is really unfortunate and dangerous.
It's not just diversity in skin color. It is definitely diversity in thought and opinion.
And the diversity of the family. The fact that they are pitting you and your husband, her and her father, against each other.
Yeah.
So it's diversity of thought they do not want, and they also don't want diversity of family.
Right, they're
apparently.
splitting the families apart.
That's
which
right.
Is, especially
more
multicultural
Whatever they
families.
say goes.
Right. The more division they can create, the more success they feel that is, because then the family falls apart. You separate the most influential, role models as their parents, and if you can make them out to be the bad guys, boy, they've really succeeded. But we're not going to let them do that. No way. All right. Well, coming up, a longtime teacher from California quits when the pandemic reveals how critical race theory was embedded in her students' curricula. Her story and her innovative solution to the problem is coming up next. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Josh Mann, managing editor of The Lion. The Lion is an initiative of the Herzog Foundation, and we publish articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture, especially related to the education of children. In covering these topics, we also touch on aspects of parenting, family life, faith, government, and other relevant cultural topics. We publish news stories every day aiming to produce timely, critical, must-read news articles and resources for families, educators, and leaders. Read the latest in education and cultural news at readlion.com. We also offer easy-to-digest daily and weekly email newsletters. Subscribe today at readlion.com/subscribe.
Welcome back to the Mom View. Kali Fontanilla taught middle school and high school for 15 years in California, and she loved it. But during the pandemic, she had access to the full curriculum. And boy, what she learned shocked her, and it led her to changing her life and her career. Welcome, Kali, to the Mom View. We're so glad to have you on set with us.
Happy to be here. I did not get the blazer memo.
Okay.
But I sweat, so I'll be okay.
Well, you look fabulous as always.
There's a question I have right out the gate because in the opening it said the full curriculum. I'm like, I'm sorry, teachers are not having access to the full curriculum?
No, not what other teachers are teaching. So normally we kind of stick in our own lane, right? We don't see what the other teachers are doing in other classrooms. But during COVID, we all had to upload our lessons onto a site, and parents had access to it, and we had access to it. Administrators had access to it. And during this time is when I saw lessons that were very concerning because my students were failing an ethnic studies course in California, which is a required class for graduation. Wow. And I decided to look at the course materials, and that's when I saw woke indoctrination from beginning to end.
And you were shocked.
I was shocked.
Literally.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my students were over it too. I had several boys say, this class is stupid.
Could you give us some examples of what was in the curriculum?
Well, you mentioned earlier privilege quiz. Well, that really was day 5. My students were given a privilege quiz. One of the questions was, do you have a teacher that looks like you? And if you didn't have a teacher that looks like you would go down on your privilege score. My favorite teacher was a gay white male in high school. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter what your teacher
Right.
looks like. It matters how well they teach, right?
Exactly.
And then it was 15 questions, very loaded questions, like how many books are in your home? And if you had less than 50 books in your home, you would go down on the privilege quiz. Some people are digital readers, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then at the end of the quiz, the students were asked to how they felt if they were at the top, against their classmates, or on the bottom.
Look at
That's just day 5. They were also given a lesson on Black Lives Matter, and they were told that if they did not support Black Lives Matter, the Marxist country-destroying movement that's based on a false premise, that if they did not support this, they also would not have supported the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s.
Look at how they're connecting that with
Yeah.
what?
You know, one of the
Ridiculous.
things that parents were able to do at one point in time was to opt out of certain things like sex education,
Surveys.
or surveys.
Yes.
You can't do that anymore, and that's one of the things that I've been trying to warn people is there is no opting out because it's woven through all of the curriculum. How do they do that?
So there is still the option to opt out, and a formal sex education when they have Planned Parenthood, which is usually contracted.
Right.
They are the #1 sex educator in our schools in this nation. They get millions and millions of dollars, and they bring in their educators to come for 2 weeks
With their message.
with
yeah.
their message,
right.
right? And you will get I want to say buttload, but that's not a good word to say. You will get a lot of
Massive
a
amount.
massive amount. Sorry, I was a middle school teacher. Okay, you will get a massive amount of forms at the beginning of the school year, and there is an opt-out form that's hidden in there. And if you don't catch that form, you're done. You're not gonna. Your child is going to get that, and they won't tell you when it's going to happen. It's just they come in, they do the sex education, and you have no idea.
Well, but even if they outside of that,
Yes.
they have woven that
They absolutely
and the
have.
racism through every single
Right.
subject.
That is-
and
it's
they
math.
kept, they kept talking. It's like 2019? That was, I remember 2019 something, and it was 2018. So anyway, when they started calling us domestic terrorists, when was that? Was 2021. Regardless. I started to do a search on, what actually is this CRT thing, and I was because it's everything. It's not just promoting racism; it's promoting the sexualization of kids. It's confusing their identities, and so all these teachers they have whistleblower teachers all over the place like you. I just love you. And that they're standing up and saying, we just want to teach kids. That's why we got into the profession, because we wanted to do that. But they're making it very, very difficult when they're shoving this indoctrination, propaganda, political ideologies into the classroom. So everybody outside in the media and everything was saying, it's not happening. There's no CRT. So CRT, they decided that's a bad word now. We're not promoting racism.
College curriculum.
Right. So I get that a teacher sends me the NEA Teachers Magazine for October. It was 2021, October 2021. And the whole thing is full of all these teachers in all these different subjects, from PE to art to science, you name it, how they wove in racism and the CRT into the classroom. And they just call it something different if you don't like it.
Cultural relative teaching. They change the names all the time just to kind of circumvent these laws that were coming out saying that we're no longer going to teach this. And it's really interesting how they were able to do that. But if you're not paying attention, this is why you need to pay
They make it
attention.
near impossible for you to know.
Right,
It's like they go out of their way to hide it, right?
Yes, they do, and they know that we know now.
Yeah.
And so I would say it's even more dangerous because it's not as transparent. So this is where you need to, I think whenever a parent wants to go to a new school, the best thing you can do is approach the principal and ask them if they have DEI policies or if there's DEI trainings for the teacher. And in fact, say it as if you're on the left, like it's something good. Because you want them to expose, you'd be like, I'm really for inclusion, and I hate, and because we all should be, real inclusion, right? I'm really for inclusion. I'm wondering if, you guys do DEI policies. I want to make sure my child is aware of this stuff. And because we do want to make sure our child is aware, of these triggers when they happen, so they report them to you, right? So you're not necessarily being too deceitful, and then that's when the principal will tell you, our teachers are trained in DEI. What does that mean? Our teachers are trained to look at students based on the color of their skin and treat them differently, which we do not want.
Racist?
Yeah, it's totally racist.
I know.
Angelina has a question.
So you look at the curriculum and you see everything. Did you start seeing any negative impacts with students, with how they viewed themselves or how they interacted with their peers? Did you see an increase in bullying?
Wow, do I have a story for you guys. So my district went full-blown CRT. We were probably, so in California, ethnic studies is a required, it's going to be starting this year, required for students to take ethnic studies in 9th grade. And that is a class that has a lot of this indoctrination in it. My school decided to adopt it 2020 and make it a required class. And my school is predominantly Hispanic. And we spent more time on Black America and Black history and Black, lessons than we did on their own heritage. The next year, these students, once they came back to the school, because we were shut down for a year and a half, we had students bring a black doll on campus and abuse it. And this is even Black students were doing this. Wow. And it made the national news. And of course, the CRT people are like, we need more CRT, more CRT.
I'm like, agitated the whole school.
These kids are rebellious. That's you know what? There's going to be, watch out for Gen Z, because they're tired of this indoctrination.
That's right.
And there's ones that are getting way into it, but then there's ones that are like, they're standing up, they're over it. And I really truly believe that there was posters of George Floyd during Black History Month in the hallways of our school. There was posters of Breonna Taylor, and it was just like this whole Black Lives Matter flags in classrooms. And these kids are like, you know what? I'm over it. And of course, teenagers, the way they rebel and the way that they act out is not necessarily positive. I'm not saying we should have kids bring black dolls to campus and abuse them, but I think it was a product of this stuff being forced down their throats.
No, they're sending out a sign that there's something that we need to pay attention to and adjust.
Exactly.
So we have there's a teacher that reached out to me a couple weeks ago and was talking about the fact that they've added a new letter. So it's now DEIC, and the C is for culture.
That's new to me.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what's happening is they have these kids, they call them runners, and they have pairs, and I don't remember what it stands for, PARS. And these pairs are supposed to pair with students who have IEPs, individual education program. And anybody who has an IEP, they have some kind of disability, whether it is a speech impediment or they're in a wheelchair, whatever it is, broad spectrum.
Yes.
And you get an individualized education program that the teacher then implements and tries to, you have more individualized education, basically. So these payers come in to help relieve the pressure off the teachers who are required to do this. And what's happening is they're not even paying attention to what's happening in the class. They're kids who have just graduated from college, they're on their phone the whole time, not paying attention. And the kids who have these IEPs are running. They literally label them as runners. They're running from the classroom. They're climbing over the fence. They're leaving the property. And what has to happen is the teacher, the principal, staff have to go and find that student and bring them back. So they bring them to a table, to discuss the IEP. And you've got a sociologist and a psychologist or in every school, because the federal government under the Biden administration funded this, giving money to them to have these counselors, these supporters. And so they all sit around the table, and their whole entire objective is to throw out one of those words: diversity, culture. It's that you just have to understand their culture. So maybe these kids are being abused. Maybe they have had some kind of trauma. Nobody is addressing why they're behaving that way. They just plaster a DEIC word on it, and everybody goes, oh, yes, yes, yes. And then everybody leaves. The students are being not able to get a good education, and those kids are not getting the attention that they need.
It's kind of the same thing that they've been doing. They just confuse it more. They throw in more confusion, more agendas. So much, though, that you left public education.
I left the career I loved.
This is what I want
I mean,
to
that
get
I
to.
worked
We
super
need
hard
more
for.
teachers
I
like
know.
you.
So
I know,
many
but
are
I'm not
doing
done
it.
teaching, so
Yeah,
that's
okay,
good.
good.
Yeah, that's. I think I would have stayed as a public school teacher until retirement. I loved what I did, and God sometimes works in mysterious ways. And it was 2020, and I decided to resign. I knew that there was too many things going on that year that made it so that I could no longer consciously be in the classroom without violating my morals.
Right.
And one of that was that my district had, it is funny, when I shared this story 5 years ago, people did not believe me, but my district, was transitioning a student on campus.
Wow.
And
You saw this all at the beginning.
this
yeah,
is
I saw it at the
middle
beginning.
school?
This is high school now, because I
High
had
school?
transferred to
Okay.
high school. Thank God, the year of the pandemic, right before I transferred to high school. And the district, a teacher had called home in my district with the old name of the child. So this was a girl that was transitioning to a boy, and the teacher used the new name, the boy name, with the parents. These are Spanish-speaking parents. They had no idea who they were calling about. They're like, who's this?
So she wasn't supposed to do that.
Yeah,
It
she
was an
wasn't supposed to do
accident.
that. It was an accident, right? Guess what? The parents were upset. They were like, you're calling, wait, so our daughter's transitioning to a boy on campus, and we don't know
told
about
us,
this,
right.
and this new name and everything. Spanish-speaking parents, they come here to this country hoping for a new life, not a new gender for their child, right? Like, so the district then gave a directive that we are no longer allowed to use the old name of the child if they're the new name of the child, unless we get the permission. It's so confusing. I'm sorry that this is.
No, I
it's
understand.
very.
You need a handbook to know how to manage your life anymore.
But absolutely, and don't even get me started on non-binary. But anyways, we were told to keep the gender change from parents as a secret.
Yes.
And I shared this story 5 years ago online, and I just shared, hey, this is what happened in my district. And I had people say, this is not happening. You're making this up. You're just trying to get attention. And now we're all like, we all know this is happening.
Those statements are so wild to me. Like, how is it that we expect lawyers and judges and court systems to acknowledge eyewitness testimony, but yet when you have someone that is actually blowing the whistle, that is literally in the classroom, who literally has the ability to see the curriculum, that sees what's going on in the classroom, and literally says, this is what is going on in the school, and everyone's like, this is not happening. What do you mean this is not happening? I literally saw it with my eyes. I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's wild.
So you said you still teach. You left
I
the
do still
system.
teach, yes.
How are you managing that?
My husband and I came up with a solution. And again, this is
I love solutions.
absolutely.
We gotta get to the
And this is
solution here,
totally
that's
God.
right.
I am a fool, and I pray for wisdom, and God is so good. But we decided to open an online K through 12 school that's nationally accredited.
Wow.
And it's called Exodus Institute. And we have almost 150 students. We are very blessed to have the children that we have, but we are scalable to as many as we can take, and we'll just keep adding more staff. But that's the blessing about online. And then it is We also have a $20 a month enrichment program that teaches students lessons on how to counter the left for 5th through 12th grade.
Oh, that is
that's my baby.
invaluable.
Yeah, that's,
Holy
that is
cow.
I know you were behind that
Yes,
one.
that's the one where I actually personally teach the lessons, my husband and I.
And what's the website for
So
that?
thinkexodus.org is where you can find
Okay.
everything. And we can take vouchers if parents qualify for vouchers, which Trump is hopefully expanding, like,
So
the
all
voucher
over,
program.
it doesn't matter what state you're in. This isn't just California. This is anywhere.
Yes,
That's fantastic.
uh-huh.
Beauty
Yes.
of online.
What a
We need
great
to get our
gift.
states on board to get these vouchers. as
absolutely.
Well, it can't just be on Trump's shoulders,
No,
you guys.
it can't.
You
Yeah.
in your circle of influence, you have to petition your local government because that's where it all starts. You have to
Amen.
make sure that they're doing their job as well.
Yeah.
Amen.
Congratulations on that.
yeah.
That's
Thank you.
amazing.
And having teachers that speak up like this. And I know,
Yes.
Kali, you really did get attacked.
Absolutely.
I've
I've been to hell and back.
You've been to hell and back, and I've
You look great, girl.
Oh, thanks.
You're still holding it together.
I still have more gray hairs. They're buried in there. Like curly hair is good at hiding it. Yeah.
But I know it's been it's been a tough journey for you, but a righteous journey. And thank you so much for speaking the truth and exposing. So again, Exodus. That's what a great opportunity for our moms to take advantage of.
Yes.
It, so
It's thinkexodus.org, and really just make sure you're taking care of your family first and foremost.
Right.
Well, make sure you're taking care of yourself, moms.
yeah.
And then make sure you're taking care of your family, because that and one of that is deciding where you want to put them for put your child for
I'm
education.
going to say that again. Thinkexodus.org.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having
Well,
me.
thank you, Kali. We're so
Thank
glad to have
you.
you. All right. Well, after the break, national talk show host Chris Stigall is going to be in the house here. He is a vocal proponent about school choice, and he'll be joining us right after this break.
America is under attack. Our families are being crushed under the politics of a radical agenda. But moms have had enough. We are standing up and we are fighting back.
This is our battle. This battle is every bit as important as the Revolutionary War because we fight for the same thing.
Moms for America is a national movement of moms reclaiming our culture for truth, family, freedom, and the Constitution.
I think Moms for America is exactly on track and is doing the right thing for the future of our country and our children.
Like Moms for America is going at the heart of the issue.
I want to go on the record and say I'm for moms, I'm for America, and I'm especially for Moms for America.
But I am honored to join Moms for America today as we speak out against the horrific mandates.
With a national network of over 500,000 mothers, Moms for America is one of the fastest growing movements of women in the country.
Well, the most dangerous place in all of nature is between a mama bear and her baby cub.
We are the change. No matter what, no matter where, and no matter how difficult the obstacles are that are facing us and our families, we will not give up and we will not give in.
So if not now, then when? If not you, then who?
Welcome to the Momland Revolution.
Chris Stigall hosts the nationally syndicated radio and digital show called The Chris Stigall Show. Chris and his wife, Christine, have 3 children, and they have become vocal proponents of school choice. Chris also serves part-time as a content creator at the non-for-profit Herzog Foundation, which you're going to be hearing about, which is an organization dedicated to the advancement of Christian education nationwide. Welcome, Chris, to the Mom View.
Ladies, great to see all of you again. Not the first time we've met, but great to be here on set with you all.
Right?
So glad to have you. We've got to talk about the Herzog Foundation. Full disclosure,
Yes.
they are sponsors of the Moms for America podcast. They are sponsors of the show. We love what they do, their mission, their vision. Would you introduce our moms to the Herzog Foundation, and then we'll get into some questions about the founder.
Yeah.
I'd be thrilled to. The Herzog Foundation broadly exists to catalyze and expand Christian education, K through 12, across the country. As you mentioned, my wife and I was friends with our founder's namesake well before I got involved with this foundation, which happy to discuss in further detail later. But broadly speaking, people all over the country, and your previous guest is just one example of the thousands upon thousands of schools, be it home-based, pod school, traditional brick and mortar Christian school, people are growing and expanding opportunities for education well beyond what we're all kind of traditionally conditioned to think exists. There's so much, but for so long, they didn't necessarily speak to one another very well. And so the Herzog Foundation has been bringing these entities, big and small, from all over the country together for trainings, to share best practices with one another. And it's been a marvelous thing to see how literally every state of the union now gathering together to talk about how they're growing Christian education.
Wow, what a great story. And what about Stanley?
Stan Herzog.
The founder, and was this his vision?
We wouldn't have
Right, there's no foundation without him. So
I can tell you that Stan Herzog, a brilliant man, but a guy of industry, he his family built, and then he continued in his father's tradition of building a company that laid things like roadways and train tracks and infrastructure, and he became a wildly successful business person. I didn't know. I knew him through politics for years, but what I didn't know was that in his private life, he raised his children and had a deep, abiding commitment to his Christian faith and Christian school in his community of St. Joseph, Missouri. He was taken from us rather suddenly, unfortunately, but just before he died, he left a vast sum of money, most of his fortune, in fact, to this endeavor called the Herzog Foundation. And his simple ask was, take this money and grow and expand Christian education.
Wow, that's
Go forward.
amazing.
And that's what we're all here to do today.
That's fantastic. So why the focus on Christian education? I think it would be a counter to the fact that there is an attack on God, there's an attack on family, there's an attack on our own identity. So Christian education seems like a really good answer and solution for a lot of families.
It is, and at least what I've learned in the time that I've been with the foundation is there are so many different ways to do it. I mean, I was pretty naive. My wife was a former public school teacher. My kids largely went through public school here until the last few years when we pulled my youngest daughter out, put her in a Christian school. And so in doing our own podcast, my wife and I, we called Making the Leap, we started interviewing people from all over the country that just offered different Christian alternatives to school. And through the trainings the Herzog Foundation offers as well, so many people have been coming through our building and our travels around the country learning all these different ways people are exposing kids to the truth of the Lord, but also a great classic education. And that comes in many different forms. So we're not purists at the foundation, to be perfectly honest with you. There is no one size fits all. That includes in Christian education.
Right. That's really what I love about the foundation.
Yeah.
So I've spoken with multiple folks on the team, Elizabeth, and I have a lot of conversations. And one of the things that I always try to help parents understand is when they take back control of their children's education, is that's exactly what it is. When you think about homeschooling, I'm like, homeschooling is not what you think it is.
No.
It's not duplicating a failed system. It is whatever works for your family and each individual child. So you guys don't just say it's all about private Christian education. You say it's whatever works for you. So like you said, the pods, and when I talk to parents, I said there are two things. Anybody can homeschool, anybody can pull their kids out. It's really what it is. You're pulling your kids out of public school. Anybody can do it if you can handle two main core principles. One, you don't do it like the school system. Why would you duplicate a failed system? And two, you don't have to do it like everybody else. And I remember when I started homeschooling, I was at this event, and I had these 4 beautiful young from a homeschool family, these young girls get up with their violins and they're doing this concert. I'm like, I'm a failure as a homeschool because we compete. We're constantly competing, and not on purpose. We're just constantly comparing. They do it so much better. They do it so much better. It has to be about you. And that is what I love about Herzog, is because you're giving all these families and the schools that are being created all these different ways that they can come together.
tools.
But that is the secret sauce.
That's it.
Coming together.
That's so true. And what I love that they did very early on at the Herzog Foundation was create something called School Box. If you go to herzogfoundation.com, any one of you, or those watching today, can start your own school if you're so inclined. We have an 8-step process called School Box to help you either start your own Christian school in your community or start homeschooling for the very first time. And people are very intimidated and overwhelmed, and they think, I don't know how to teach my own kids. It scares people to death. That's why we created this very simple 8-step process, and we pair you with resources and partners that are linked to the foundation through trainings and other things to guide you through it, so you're never alone, and you always have resources. That's the thing I think we found at the foundation, was how often people felt alone in what they were doing. This has really networked so many
It's a sense of community. And two, just the fact that our public schools are just going against all of our values. I mean, we have to now think of education completely different. That's what we've been talking about here, on today's show. But education has changed so much. Parents have got to figure out what to do and how to do it. And that's why, HRSAC's important.
And can I tell you, to be very honest, just because it says Christian school above the door doesn't mean you don't have to be careful.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up because
Christian school can go just as woke.
Yes,
And they have.
And they have, and they do, and they are, and that's why we also really put a premium on calling different folks together for trainings year-round that have become so popular, and free, by the way. I should mention, these are completely free trainings.
Oh, that's amazing.
So if you're willing to travel, the Herzog Foundation pays for the training, the lodging, and your meals while you're there. So you can find out about these trainings. We do hundreds of them all over the country all year long. But the point is, we call these folks together for best practices on everything from raising funds for your school to curriculum and making sure you're on track. You have to, Christian school's got to mean that. It's got to mean Christian school. It's got to mean biblical principles, and you can't stray from those things. And so the foundation has really put a premium on that too.
So Angelina, is this getting you?
Well, it does. Well, funny enough, Chris and I actually live in the same area.
Yeah.
We're actually friends, and we've had many conversations about this. And it's wonderful to be in a place or with other people who really understand what you find important for your family and the values that you want to place upon your children, and to find places that really are a champion of the Christian, Christ-centered approach to education is amazing. And I think also the standard of excellence that your foundation holds to allow other people to say, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right, and we give people an example of how it's supposed to look.
That's it. It's Stan insisted on that. Our board chairman and our board insist on the highest of standards. They want everybody to come across the Herzog Foundation with a feeling of they're getting our excellence, they're getting the very best, and they're getting the very best guidance. And my favorite part of the entire year, and we do this every September now for the last 3 years, this will be our 4th year at the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. I don't know that it's ever been done before. We recognize folks that are excellent in Christian education and homeschool education, and we have an awards ceremony for these great educators from around the country.
I got an invitation for that one.
Did you? Yeah.
I'm going to be there.
Are you good? And we fly folks in and their guests and put them up and show them the town, and it's a first-class experience all the way to award some of the very best in Christian education around the country.
So one of the things that you said was classical education. That sparks my interest. So classical education is really Western civilization education, which has that God-centered component to it, because that's really where all the wellspring came from, was the belief in God. So classical education, there are very few entities out there that offer that. And one of the things that I talked to Elizabeth about is the fact that you guys do promote this idea of classical education. It's not just about Christian education or theology or determining what religion is the right religion. Sometimes parents get freaked out over that. This is a classical liberal arts education that we're promoting, and that is the best way that kids will learn. And they'll be able to hold on and recognize those values that we want to instill in them, that made America the greatest, most prosperous nation on earth.
That's it. And the rigors of it are a little bit more. I mean, my own daughter has found, leaving public school in middle school and joining a private Christian school. Not gonna lie, I think you know this from experience. Any of you that have experienced this with your kids, it's tougher. The expectations are a little bigger.
Same thing. Mine shifted. I moved mine out of public to Christian in high school. So same.
When you raise the standard, there's no choice but to
That's right.
rise above to meet that standard. And I think that is what is missing within our public schools, and the fact that you provide that and you're not willing to waver on those standards. Ladies, that includes you too. Stop lowering your standards. But it is important that we keep those standards high and allow our children to try to achieve that.
And they will excel.
And encourage
Give them a bar to measure up to. They will
And
excel.
they will meet
compete.
it.
They
They
will
meet it.
want it. They're hungry for it.
And and everybody gets a trophy is not necessarily the best thing for the kids, right?
It's not. We don't hand out A's. We have to earn those.
You have to earn them.
Again, I say that what is healthy is the discussion, even amongst people of faith, about how to educate kids. I love it. Again, we don't take a position at the foundation about how to do it. We talk to everybody from Lutheran schools to classical Christian schools to
that's so great.
evangelical schools, homeschools, pod schools. we're all unified in the idea that there's got to be a better way than this warehousing of our kids in the public school system.
Right, and look, we're
Warehousing and
dismantling
conveyor belt.
the Department of Education. I mean, education is on the forefront of this administration's discussion, let alone every home. Everyone is trying to figure out what to do with their kids regarding their education. That is their heart, their soul, and their mind.
And I guess I should, if I could, just quickly preface that we're not at war with public school. My wife, my mother, public school. There are millions of people that I think are very well intentioned in public education still.
Yes.
We're talking broadly, culturally. I never want to single out any individual, and we certainly don't at the foundation, but it's clearly not working. I mean, the data shows it.
Yeah, I have two questions here. So there's some resources and programs that Herzog Foundation offers parents, and one is the Lion, and one is the American Dream Speaker Series. Could you kind of go into that a little bit?
Glad you brought it up. I'm awfully proud to have a small part with my colleagues at the Lion. This is a news source that I hope everybody bookmarks and keeps maybe on their phone or wherever you may log on every day and check it out, because we write about things in the culture, in government, in education that maybe you won't get elsewhere. And it's just won a slew of awards. Josh Mann, who runs the Lion, and our extraordinary team of journalists there. I also host a small show each week, kind of wrapping up the week, called the Lion Week in Review. But the Evangelical Press Association just gave the Lion a slew of awards here recently. They do outstanding work, real journalism that you're just not going to get anywhere else. So if you go to readlion.com every day, there's fantastic journalism there that I think people will really enjoy reading.
And can you get an app on your phone? Do you have an app for it too?
We don't yet, but we should, and I've encouraged it, and we're going to.
We live on our phone.
I know we're going to get that done. But also, as far as the American Dream Speaker Series, we have brought in some tremendous guests, everybody from former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to former Attorney General Bill Barr. We had Riley Gaines in recently, and Dr. Ben Carson is our most recent guest.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for explaining those.
Yeah, they're great.
Something I think all our parents will.
You can see all the photos and all of this stuff at herzogfoundation.com, by the way. Yeah.
Well, thank you to Herzog. We love Herzog.
Yes,
we do. We have a great relationship, and the values are aligned. We are excited about changing the culture, turning it back to those traditional family values that, again, made America the freest, most prosperous nation on earth.
Yeah. Listen, we love partnering with you. We've admired what you've done from a distance, and when the foundation started, I know they long saw what you'd been doing, and so the partnership just made complete sense.
Yeah.
We love the show, and we're excited about the partnership in the future.
I'm so glad you could be with us today. I want more people to know about Herzog and all the great resources that you offer.
Thank you, ladies, very much.
One last comment
Yes,
to how often is your show on, the Chris Stigall Show?
Well, now that's every day. I get up bright and early. That's with the Salem Media Group, and I do that every morning, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
And so you can watch that or listen to that on great
coffee, huh?
Salem radio
stations. Did you
stations.
hear his voice?
He's got
a great radio voice.
Yeah.
Face for radio.
Yeah, the Stigall Show.
Despite your makeup team's best attempts, this is all they could do with it.
Well, thanks, Chris. We're so glad that you're here with us today.
Thank you, ladies.
Awesome. All right, stay with us. We'll be right back after this break.
For the moms of Moms for America out there, Cardio Miracle really truly helped me out personally, and I could see that. But it also helped my mom out, it helped my wife out, it helped my sister out, it helped my friends out. I've really seen the benefits, and this is a time for healing our bodies, our minds, and our souls. And Cardio Miracle has done that for me, and I think it also can do it for our moms. Head to our link, cardiomiracle.com/moms for a discount and to get started today.
All right, well, welcome back to the Mom View. Wow, ladies, what a great discussion on education.
It's a happy show. I like happy shows.
Happy shows. With lots of solutions, you guys.
Yes.
I know sometimes it's a little overwhelming, especially if you have just decided that you no longer want your children in public education. It is so important that you do look at all the resources and do your research and try to educate yourself on what best fits you and your family.
And don't think that you can't have a voice.
Right.
That is so crucial to understand. Regardless of where you decide to put your kids or how you're going to educate them, the fact is that is your right and your responsibility and your authority level. So use your voice, make your decisions, and what's best interest for your family. What advice would you give?
My advice to any parents out there, be vigilant and have strength in your voice. If you are afraid or you don't feel like you can, reach out. There is somebody there who's willing to be a voice for you. Reach out locally to your elected officials, state and local, advocate and support the bills, because there are a lot of education bills going through state houses that don't have enough constituent support. So be aware of who in your in your state aligns with your values, and then be a champion with them.
And sometimes it's just as simple as a phone call. I mean, we have a whole entire kitchen table lobby. It's totally possible.
We
Do it from the kitchen table. Make phone calls, emails, and it doesn't take an enormous amount of time, but the results and the impact that it has on your family, that is monumental.
On the heels of what Angelina is talking about, making an impact locally with the, we mentioned it briefly, with the dissolving of the Department of Education, everything is moving closer to you, which is a place for it to be. And that's when we can make a greater impact. That's when we can run for school board. That's when we can look at policies and legislation and decide whether we want our children there. My kids were public education, except for the last 2 years of my youngest, but I didn't have these issues then. And the culture is different now. So we're faced with new issues, and moms have got to figure it out. Moms and dads, we need you too, dads. But I mean, we've got to figure it out differently. And what's happening at our schools? Some schools will, adopt a different philosophy, and other schools maybe not.
And we know that you educate the child, so goes the soul of the nation. And we know that local action equals national impact. So if you want to nationally impact the culture of a nation, the soul of America, you need to make sure that you are the sharpest tip of the spear in your circle of influence. It starts right here at home, wherever you are. You don't need a massive platform. Your platform is wherever it is that you are. And it starts with your children in your own home.
And I think just from your story, Angelina, the big takeaway is we need to require transparency. And any of these schools, they've got this whole, well, we have ownership of it and we have proprietary data. I'm sorry, if it's proprietary data and the parents, the teachers, and the school board members can't see it, we're not buying it, we're not using it.
Well, I mean, I'm lucky we found a classical education school, which for me is wonderful because it teaches children to think, not how to think. They learn to question. They learn to ask questions. They get comfortable with challenging status. And I think that's going to be really important for the next generation, these littles that we have.
And investigating.
I agree with that.
Investigating, and that's what Gen Z is doing a lot now. This generation, we all have, you and I have Gen Zers, culture, the kids that are,
it's so shifting.
And they want to know what's going on. They're demanding truth.
They are asking an enormous amount of questions. And you guys, please, if they are asking you a question, answer it. Do not degrade them. Do not roll your eyes and go, how do you not know this? It's not their fault. They don't know. All right. Answer their questions because they really want to know. And it is an incredible generation. And the alpha's coming right after them, and they're going to save us.
They will. It's something I've learned while I was in the military is if you don't know the answer to the question, you don't have to say, well, I don't know. You just say, you know what? I'll figure it out. I don't know right now, but I'll go find out. I'll go find out the answer. And that is how you are supposed to approach your children because you want them to be able to question things and be intuitive because every day is a learning experience. You don't learn things all the time in a brick and mortar situation with an instructor in front of you.
No, the idea is to create lifelong learners who love
Life
to learn.
is education.
I am a lifelong learner who loves to learn. And I'm not going to tell you how old I am.
I think you also just have to be an active participant in your child's life.
That part.
You have to be an active participant.
Yes.
It is.
Don't be afraid.
No matter, and find something that they like that you can tolerate. Maybe you don't like something. Maybe you can't find a thing that one of your kids loves or is interested in. Pretend. Pick one you can tolerate. Pretend and get to know your kid. Yes, support them. Go to their sports activities. Read their papers. Talk to them when they come home. Those relationships that you build, that will change the world.
And that's what we do. We here at Moms for America, here in the Mom View, we're encouraging moms in their role and helping them on their journey through motherhood.
That's right.
So thank you so much for joining us on the Mom View. Again, check us out at themomview.com. That's where you can find out previous episodes, what's coming up, all that fun stuff there. Communicate with us. Also follow us on social media, The Real Mom View on Instagram, X, and all the other platforms. TikTok. All right. Thanks for joining us on the Mom View, and we will see you next time.